Good evening, Facebook. Hi, guys. It is 8:12, 8:10, I don't know, whatever, sometime around there, Eastern time. Finally got my kiddos settled into bed. And I just wanted to pop on and say some hellos and answer some questions I have had come in about the poem yesterday and about the release. Also give a little bit of a life update. I spent all day today, well, the majority of the morning this morning up and beginning of the afternoon up at Triune Mercy Center here in Greenville. Really, really awesome space that's doing a lot to help the homeless, and I've been attending services there a little bit here and there, and so I went and volunteered some time there this morning. And really, I realized about 2 hours ago or so, right after I finished dinner, I think today is the first day in probably a little over 5 years that I have spent time behind the scenes volunteering or working at all behind the scenes in any type of ministry. And that was something I did like regularly all the time for the first 25 years of my life. So the last 5 years I haven't had even a little bit of that. Haven't wanted it. I've stayed away from it. But this church is just, they're doing so much for the community, and it's blowing my mind, and they're very open-minded and diverse, and the pastor, she's phenomenal, right? They have a lot to do with using their voices for the politics here local to Greenville, and using their voices to speak up for the homeless and the people that they are trying to pass laws against right now, right? So I spent a good portion of the morning there this day. You know, I didn't plan on spending most of the school day there, but that's how that ended up. But I'm really glad it ended up that way. I got to help people. They ended up needing the help, which I'm really grateful for, that I was there, and that it was as busy as it was. It was fun to get to see how things operated. I got to help a bunch of people get their phone calls in for EBT and SNAP stuff, and make sure that was all sorted for them. And I cleaned tables, and it felt good to go do that in a space that it was safe to do that in. That felt really, really good. And I am so tired today because I left there and I went and grabbed myself some lunch, and then I hit the grocery store really quick before my kids got home from school, and I have been in mom mode ever since. And my body is so tired. I have a migraine kicking in, all of the things. And it's funny because my brain and like everything inside me is like, no, we've worked through this. This is safe. You can do this now. My body is like, F you, man. Like, something bad's going to happen. It's not integration. I need to go take a hot shower probably after this. But I am so grateful for the day that I was given today after the day that yesterday was. Triune Mercy Center has honestly opened me as the music mom up to meeting a lot of different people that are local to Greenville, business owners and stuff like that. I'm not sure who else is popping on, but if you're popping on, thank you for watching. Just giving some life update right now and kind of sharing about my day. But I have unfortunately lost a couple more students through the music mom. Not any reflection of me, but a lot of transitions, and for my students as well, because school has started and people ebb and flow. But I am having to look for other employment right now because the music mom has died down so much, and I've not lost all of my students. I won't stop teaching altogether. I don't plan to, especially with my older students. We've got a great relationship going. I started teaching back up a couple of them this week. I taught 2 of them, and now I've got them consistently. But because of that, I'm having to look for other employment. And because of the people that I have met in this amazing space, this community space, there's a non-for-profit, there's lots of things going on in this building. It is so much more than a church. I have been introduced to a local theater company that works with it's very professional, but it uses the arts as a way of therapy, right? So that's really, really fun and exciting. And then also what was the other thing? Oh, it's just some other creative outlets that the music mom never would have met before, So I don't know how I'm going to continue in that way right now. That's still navigating, and I'm really trying to keep from having to go get a regular job, which is probably going to be the grocery store. I trust that Spirit has something much better aligned for me. So today's been a day of meeting people, and it's been a few weeks of meeting people and just a lot of alignment and weird alignment, weird alignment. But very much Jerry universe spirit alignment, and I'm just going to keep trusting it, right? I my kids have had a really good few weeks at school. It's so strange because my oldest three are in 4th grade, and I knew 3rd and 4th grade were going to be big shifts between like the expectation and things like that. What I was not prepared for was how much my actual kids were going to grow. And it's so strange because I am so calm at the beginning of the school year. My nervous system actually is like I'm in my body more than I ever have been at the beginning of their years. And it's not just for me. My kids have worked very hard to get to where they are. You know, we do a lot of work in family therapy and individual therapies for some of them. And it takes a lot of work for the 5 of us to maintain who we are as humans and continue to grow, because it's not about maintaining who we are, you know. If you stop changing, like I don't want to stop changing. I want to keep growing, you know, as a human, whoever that is. I don't want to stop changing until I'm dead, but that also means a lot of navigating and learning how to integrate all of those lessons. And I'm teaching that to my kids. You know, they're beautiful humans. I got a call from the twins teacher today, just checking in with me and sharing from her perspective how great they were in class. And it made my heart so happy as a mom to get that phone call. You know, I missed it. I was doing dishes and I listened to the voicemail. But it was still really encouraging as a mom doing as much work as I am doing to maintain my mental health and the stability of our home. Further with the kids, I have gotten more information since their dad left the state a few weeks ago. It's not even been 2 weeks yet, actually. It's been almost 10 days, I want to say. I have personally heard from him one time. He has not responded to anything I have sent. I have no plan for child support. I have no clue what he has no plan. I already know that. But that money has stopped at this point, and I found out today that here in South Carolina, because it is getting docked and it looks like because the state has him paying child support right now, and they have it in the system, even if he stops paying it as a single mom and he is not making the payments, I can't go get any other wherever I go get support from, they're going to include that money as income that is not coming in. But because there's a court order for it, it's going to count whether I'm getting it or not. That's a problem for I don't know what I'm going to do there. I actually got this information today. To give more explanation there, I'm not sure if I have not heard from him because he is currently sitting in a jail cell or if it's because he's just gone MIA. The kids have not heard from him since last Thursday. That is the only time that they have talked to him since he left. And he has answered nothing. So he had an active bench warrant out for him up in Indiana for some past things. And as far as I know, that wasn't taken care of. So I really don't even know the whereabouts of their biological dad right now. He's made no effort to reach back out outside of that one phone call with his kids last week. And part of me is saying this on here because if you're a family member of his and you know he's okay, if you could just at least let me know. But also, I can't keep chasing him, or I won't keep chasing that. That's his problem. He can deal with it. But in regards to my kids now, it is... I waited 18 months for child support to get it for 3 months. And now it's in the system, so it counts as income. And he's not even here. He's left. He's gone out of the state, has no job, no way to pay the child support. And he's not going to follow up with a phone call. If you know him, he's not going to do that. He left the state without notifying them about any of this. And that's why the chips are falling this way. So right now I'm having to look at possibly going and dropping the child support altogether, because even though he can't pay it and is not paying it and has no plan to pay it, it's still going to keep racking up. And if I go look for help any other way, on paper, they have to look at child support and that order's there so it counts. Guys, that was 4 digits. Barely 4 digits, okay? But that was a large amount of money, and that was because of how much he was making. That was they knew my income. So now I'm probably going to have to go figure out and pull child support that way if I plan on getting, state help. And even with that, I'm in government housing. I get food stamps. And I work my butt off to maintain my mental health. But because of my mental health, that is why I had to step away from my last formal job, which was with Greenville County Schools. I think I mentioned that on the last video. I am a very hard worker. I am a very good worker. But my body and brain have been through too much, and I have too much to manage now as the only sole biological parent with these kids, right? Justin has stepped in so beautiful, like not stepped in, like he's not replacing their dad, but like in support for the kids and I. It has been a beautiful transition, right? But yeah, amidst all of this craziness, I now have to figure out how to either supplement that income so that I actually have it. That way when I go looking for support in other areas, because I'm going to figure out a job. I'm not going to not work, right? So with me losing piano students right now and things shifting in that way, it means I have to go find a job. But I know me, I know my work history, I know who I have to be able to show up for my kids. And that is my biggest priority, is to be a good mom. I don't care how much money I'm making. I want to be a good mom and help people, right? And I'm trusting the universe and that the Holy Spirit will pay the bills at that point. That is literally how I was raised. While there was a lot of trauma with my upbringing, it instilled such deep amounts of faith in me personally, because I was going through so much trauma, and the only thing I had to depend on was this God that was up in the sky, right? I believed that all so deeply. It's why I was still in it for so long, and why I never questioned it, and why I didn't realize the extent of my abuse until COVID. Because it was my safety net. It was the thing that I relied on. That's what we were taught to do, was to trust and obey. But as someone who has left the church and has experienced the spirit, the universe, God outside of religion, that really is how that works. Not blindly trust and obey. You have to live in the reality that you have bills to pay, right? But I'm at the point now where I do trust that everything that I have put out for all of this time, it's going to keep coming back to me good. I have absolutely no clue how my bills are going to get paid. I have no clue how I'm going to do some of these things. And honestly, I'm not able to get support from the people that I should be, that you would think I would be getting support from right now. That's not how this is landing, right? And that is fine. That is what it is. But at that point, I have no clue but to trust. Otherwise, I go crazy. I get too stressed out. My anxiety goes through the roof. All things that I have worked very hard to work through and become stable with, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where I'm going to end up with employment-wise as the music mom. I'm really hoping that it ends up being with one of these local theaters, or I don't know. I have a couple ideas, and I've got myself a timeline and a goal, and if some things aren't met in that time frame, then I will know that I need to go down to the grocery store and get a temporary job there, you know. But it's insane to see the alignment and how it crosses paths with my parenting and my kids and who they are. Through all of this stress, my kids are literally having the best time right now. They are getting involved in school, and their grades are great, and their teachers have nothing but positive feedback, and they're coming home with smiles on their faces, and it makes this all worth it. Yeah, so I think that's where I'm going to leave that all. If you're jumping on now, if you want to go back and watch, I gave some updates to the whole child support situation and that situation with their dad, and how I'm kind of a bit stuck there now and looking at having to figure a lot of things out. That's fine. I'm not going to repeat all that. If you would like to go back after this live is done, you're welcome to go back and watch. I really enjoyed getting on the live last week and just having conversation with people. I've realized that I've known this for years about my Facebook. It's why I got myself a whole new Facebook when I left the church. I had so many followers and friends and people that only knew me because of who my dad was or who I was in the church, or they'd seen me sing somewhere or play piano somewhere, or they had one of my CDs. And so when I left the church, I couldn't stay there because those people have been watching me my entire life. And I hold some regret because I lost all the kids' baby pictures, my pregnancy announcements, all that kind of stuff. But what I'm grateful for in this new Facebook page that I have now, that you guys have gotten to know me on as Jill Taylor, I have found my voice. And because I have moved so much and I've been isolated through COVID, we didn't have a choice but to connect virtually. I didn't have another option. But this has helped me reclaim so much of my voice that I didn't realize. And this has been so much part of my journey. You guys' encouragement and all the random comments, the random messages throughout these last few years is what has encouraged me to keep writing and keep doing the things that I've been doing to get me to where I am right now, you know? And so it just kind of feels natural to come on here and go live and talk about my family and my updates because you guys have supported it for so long, and I am in a season of so much exponential overnight insane alignment growth that I can't keep up, and I also need support. And for a while I was like, no, people don't want to hear more. Like, you're already dramatic enough on there. Some people don't want to listen because you're just, but that's just it. I'm doing this for me. I don't know who's watching. I see some names popping up. Hi, if you guys are on still. But I don't keep track of that. And unless I see comments to interact with, I'm not here to talk, to draw followers in, right? I just want to share my story more. So with that, that's kind of more of the life update part and the job business part. If you are in Greenville and you're seeing this and you would love to collaborate creatively, please contact me. I have the time and space in my schedule, and I'm looking to do that, however that looks. But with that, I am going to shift and talk now about that poetry that I shared yesterday a little bit. I have had a lot of feedback on that. And honestly, I'm still shaky over the nurse from yesterday. I can't believe I posted that video, honestly. I'm laughing about it because I'm kind of like in disbelief that I did that. That poem in particular, okay, I'm going to give context to that poem and when I wrote that poem, who that poem was written around, because I can definitely tell that there have been questions, and I'm an open book, so I'm not going to necessarily, if people ask questions now, I'm happy to answer what I'm comfortable answering if anybody has anything. But earlier this year, after the president won and took over office and was actually seated in office, I think January, right? My dad's best friend, whose name is Billy, he is an evangelist. He has been a missionary my entire life, has traveled. He and his family sang. His girls are a little older than me. They were not just ministry family. My dad has known this person since second grade. Okay, so they go way back. Our families are family friends. He is someone that Billy is someone that I have gone on missions trips with, that I have looked up to, that was like second dad to me in a lot of ways for a long time. And I have even had some conversations with him as an adult about the trauma and the things that my dad and I went through together, things that he knew about. And we had talked more openly about it. But over the years, he is one of the pastors that I had kept on, or one of the preachers that I had kept in contact with here on this new page. There's a handful of people, not even a handful, there's a good chunk of my friends here on this current Facebook page that I know because of my upbringing, right? I've added some of you guys gradually over time as I healed and realized it was safe for me to do that, and that I could trust that whoever I was adding wasn't going to give me backlash for what I was posting. But it has taken me a long time to get to the point where I can add people like that, because of my trauma, because of who my dad is, and because I was genuinely afraid of a lot of the stuff that I was posting getting back to my family. And especially early on in this particular Facebook page for me in 2020 and stuff, I needed the privacy from my family. I had gone no contact for a while with my parents. I am not no contact anymore, and I will touch on that in just a little bit. But in context of this poem, at the beginning of this year, after Trump took office, I have a hard time with politics. I have my voice, but for me to sort through it mentally, I was raised in that cult. Okay, and I'll be honest, I was so in it that I voted for Trump the first time. I think this is the first time I have publicly admitted this. I was so in the cult that when he got in the first time, and I didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do. I didn't want to vote for him. I did not know what to do. But there was so much pressure coming from the churches, from my family, from a lot of other areas. That was what you did. And at that point, I was still so in it that I didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't know what was going on. None of that made sense to me. So I just voted the way that I was taught to vote. And, I grew up with only Fox, and you don't get all the liberal stuff. You only get that. So, and I realized that at this point, by the time he came back around by the time he was out, by the end of his first term, I realized how much of a mistake it was. But I also realized that I did the best I could with what the information was that I had, right? I didn't support it, and I saw how extreme it was getting, and that was insane to me. Because and at this point, I was in therapy, but I was still so attached to my dad's church and the church in general. Like, my younger siblings, they all got older, and either my brother joined the military, he joined the Navy, he's still active Navy, and both of my sisters left for Tennessee to go to college. When I was supposed to leave for college, I got pregnant instead because I didn't know how my body worked. And I became the oldest sibling that stayed home, had all of the babies, and my siblings learned how to not have kids really early on because I had kids really early on, okay? So for context, my dad is the only pastor that I sat under directly until I think I moved away in 2018. And when I say moved away, I moved an hour away, okay? I moved an hour away, and I was on a time change. So my parents are on Central Time, and I was on Fast Time. I was on Eastern Time, which is what I'm on now. That put enough of a space that I had started my healing had really started amplifying, but I was still very close contact with my family. My dad was like trying to get me to come back every Sunday and play piano for him, but it was too hard for me because of the time change and all, and my babies were really little. They weren't even in school yet, right? At this point, I was still very much with their biological dad. This is all the context of what was going on when Trump got in office, okay? So that's part of the reason I'm sharing this the first time. So by the time he came around the second time, I have done a lot more healing. I've been out of the church. I wouldn't necessarily, even politically, I don't call myself a liberal. I don't call myself a Democrat, honestly. I honestly find myself probably more as an independent. But because of the stance that the church was taking, that I was raised by specifically, that is why it infuriated me so much, and why I do post vocally about these things. Because while I'm not saying I agree fully with the other party, or I understand even fully, my full issue, and still to this day, hi baby, my full issue and still to this day is the fact that the church that I was raised by is either loudly supporting this president, or they are sitting silent while the nation takes over and does the exact opposite of what we are taught to do in the Bible. That is why I post the things that I post. It's why I'm very particular about the things that I post, because I don't jump on things that I don't know how to talk about, right? Pro-choice, I am very, very, very pro-choice. I became pro-choice before I ever left the church. I became pro-choice because of the birth journey that I had and the pregnancy that I had with my youngest son. And that's a different story for a different time. But I had so many Christians come after me before I ever even left the church, because I realized that being pro-life was not biblical, that Jesus was even pro-choice. And like, who are we to force people, right? Even as a Christian nation and laws, like, that is not the Bible. And so a lot of people didn't agree with that. And that's fine. A lot of people still don't agree with that. But it's why I have not stopped speaking on it. I quieted down for a while because I got tired of losing people. I got a lot of backlash. My parents, my mom specifically, my dad does, he's iffy on Facebook. I don't even know if he has a Facebook page anymore. But my mom does. And so her being on and off my page has been an ebb and flow. And that was part of the reason that sometimes, but as the things got stronger out there and louder, there was no way I could keep sitting here quiet, especially now, because this is the world my kids are getting raised in, right? Well, the beginning of this year, he gets in and actually takes office. And the day after, I want to say, Billy, this missionary evangelist who travels the country in the name of Jesus, that I learned so much from, posts, along with all of his Bible verses, a picture of Border Patrol buses outside driving down 8094 outside of downtown Chicago. That is like my stomping ground, okay? Like, I grew up within 45 minutes of the city, okay? When I moved down here, I was about an hour and a half from the city. But Chicago is my heart, my home. That is where I am from. And so when I saw that at the beginning of this year, that was the last straw. I couldn't take it anymore. That is when I came public with the post about, if you are posting Bible verses and you post publicly that you support Trump, you have to go. I can respect anybody that is just a Republican, and not even in this case, I can't fully respect it, but I can understand it. I can understand it, especially if you were raised like I was and you don't understand what to do. I can at least respect that, but I could not, my nervous system, my feet, like, I am protecting my energy. I could not take any more Trump supporters who were verbally supporting him and also saying, but Jesus loves you and come to church. even now seeing that, like, I have been on missions trips with this man. So you mean to tell me that they only matter if we're over there serving them in their country? Somebody give me a soapbox or a pulpit, because I could go off on a whole lot of things, and I got a lot of scripture to back it because I know it that well. But this is where this poem in particular that I released yesterday, that is where that poem stemmed from. It did not stem from a moment of me breaking down with my trauma or having a flashback, although I have a lot of poetry that I've been writing for 5 years that is that. And you guys are going to hear some of it. But that poem in particular that I shared yesterday was not specifically to direct the attention to the abuse that I went through, although I am very grateful. I knew that it would shed a lot of light on things that have never been shed light on. And I am honestly very astounded at the amount of messages and feedback that I have gotten from people that I was not expecting from at all in support, because they just didn't know, or they've had their own issues, or they've seen my dad in their own light, and they, he has changed a lot. My dad has. But my upbringing was kept under wraps. And even still to this day, it is not discussed. It is not talked about. It is shoved under the rug. And so when I wrote that poem at the beginning of this year, it really, and it still is for Billy and all of the other people that are still sitting there silent. It was more fueled by the politics because of the things shifting in the nation. But I used my experience to go off of, and I had a lot of experience of people sitting there in silence. Not everybody knew, and I know that. My dad hid it very, very well, and we were trained to hide it very well. So I do not hold ill will toward the majority of the people that did help influence my upbringing. But the pastors, the ministers, the Sunday school teachers, the people that are now in places of power still, and that have shown no remorse or no change, I have a lot of ick towards them. A lot. I have noted very deeply the pastors on my page that I still have on my page that do not post politically. I wouldn't call them cult Christians. I wouldn't call it that. Although they are more Republican Christians would be my guess. And even that cult upbringing, that's very specific to me and my family. Not everyone we associated with at all. And I know that, and I need to publicly say that. Not everyone I associated with was cult. No, some of them are very in their own select ways now, and there's a couple different, that's what they would be classified as. But one in particular really, really actually is and has a docuseries. So that one's not dramatic. That one's for real. But like when I say that cult mentality, it's that legalism, that sense of control. Like, it doesn't have to look like a cult. Mine didn't. Honestly, it didn't. The Amish people, that was obvious. We weren't obvious. We hid it very well. We were taught to perform very, very well. Billy taught me to perform very, very well. I have learned a lot from him musically, from his daughters. Actually, he helped me produce, was supposed to be in the studio the day that I recorded my piano CD. And he had something in his family come up, and so I had to change and invite my dad to come with me instead. But Billy was actually supposed to be in the studio. Now that I'm thinking back on this, he was supposed to be in the studio the day with me that I recorded my CD back in 2019, my big piano project. I'm very still proud of that. It's just all church music, but that is probably one of the things I'm most proud of. But so to come all of these ways years later, now I'm sitting here 30 years old. I have 3 fourth graders and a third grader, right? And my kids aren't little. And I have been handed a very rude awakening of what the world is from a very young age, right? I grew up very, very fast. People that know me or have known me a long time could probably attest to the fact that I probably physically am aging backwards in some ways. I mean, I see a lot more wrinkles and I'm getting old in that area, but also like it's feeling safer in my body and everything in my nervous system. Where is that? That fly needs to go away. Keeps catching my attention. I'm aging backwards. I feel younger. I'm tired, but this is just a season, and I know I'm going to bounce back. I am eager to see what my body looks like in my 40s, honestly, and not in like a weird way. Like, I've spent so much time birthing babies and just in survival mode my entire life that I am excited to see what healing looks like on me physically, I don't even remember how I got to that rabbit trail. Sorry. Really big rabbit trail. But like that amount of trauma affects a person. It affects you mentally. And so once I got to this point of being a grown ass adult at 30 years old, and that honestly, that post from Billy was the first time that I had actually popped off and said something to someone. I got so upset. And up to this point, I have kept my freaking mouth shut. I don't start fights on Facebook. I don't. And that's insane to me. I have lost so many so-called Christian friends over the 5 years on my Facebook page. Some of them first cousins family, okay? Some of them over that stupid me just needing to set a boundary around Trump and Bible verses, okay? They bring the fights to me. I didn't ask for it. I didn't go on your page. It didn't go off on you. Like, sorry, but if the shoe fits and you're uncomfortable, you gotta fucking wear it, right? Like, I'm just calling it like I see it. And last I was taught, like, that's what we were supposed to do. We were taught not to associate with people that we didn't want to be like. Sorry, but I don't want to be like the Trump supporters that are sharing Bible verses at the same time. I can at least respect Trump supporters that just voted for him out of complete and total ignorance and just voting for the party. That I have more respect for than people that are quoting Bible verses and supporting what he is doing right now. And I will be honest in saying that, everyone that I know personally and deeply, like outside of the friends that I've made in the last 5 years, they all support him openly, okay? Even if it's not openly in conversation, that's where they land because they don't know what else to do. And I don't judge that. I was there for a hot minute myself. There was just another party that got in between. But like, I don't have any respect for that. I can't. Do you guys, like, I'm not saying that it's about the friggin' parties or the politics, but this is not Jesus. This is not God's love. And honestly, this is now affecting me. As a single mom who does receive a lot of help from the state, I'm not sitting on my butt doing nothing all day. Like, I am doing the complete opposite. My baby daddy's in a whole nother state, quite possibly in a jail cell right now. I have no way to pay child support. And now that the court systems have caught up to him, because that's what the systems are supposed to do, right? Help us. I am now screwed and cannot get extra support, even though that baby daddy cannot pay the child support. So unless I go drop the child support and it doesn't continue racking up against him, I am having, that is $1,200 a month. Okay, guys? I wasn't trying to get specific, but that's how big that number was for me almost. That is a lot of money as a single mom. And I've been trusting the systems. I've done everything that I was supposed to do. I have followed all of the rules. I did from the beginning. That's how I ended up here. And so to be someone that is sitting here being screwed over after following on the rules, and then to watch the people that I was raised by, the people that I called dad, the people that I called second dad or uncle, or here's like just, I called you in states of emergency because I needed help, and you are now publicly supporting the nation being taken over like this. Like, nope, sorry, I can't be quiet anymore, right? And I was quiet for a while. The first 6 months of this year, I had been really fucking quiet. As quiet as I could be, at least with my poetry. I was sharing some of it, but I know that the louder I get here, the less people listen to me. They tune me out, and I'm just one other crazy left person that left the church. I'm a prodigal child. I'm the pastor's oldest daughter, but no one has any clue what I've been through. No one has any idea outside of the story and the narrative that my family and my parents have given. And after the last 2 weeks that I have had, and the lack of support, and I'm not talking about financial support, okay? Although, yes, that is included, but that's not what I'm referring to. But the lack of support that I have received from my immediate family in regards to what has happened with my ex-husband leaving the state. Literally down to being sent a house in the same city that he's probably living in right now. I finally got 12 hours away from him. I don't want to be closer to him. And I had expressed this. But that is how separate my relationship stays with my immediate family a lot of the time. Not all of them. My siblings and I are working through it, and I love my siblings desperately. We have all navigated a lot. They are all on their own journeys, and they're beautiful humans. And they're all in their own lives. But specifically my parents. My dad and I we're on good terms, honestly. My dad and I are probably on the best terms we've ever been on right now. I don't know if he has seen the video from yesterday. Knowing my dad and the people that know my dad, I feel like there's a good chance that he hasn't even heard about the video yet because everyone is too afraid to tell him. But I do know that it's gotten back. I mean, my mother, like, I'm friends with my mom. But I can't keep screaming into the void and not be heard by my parents. And this isn't for that. This isn't for attention anymore. I don't need that. I have found my way of healing without the closure that I have needed throughout my life. That I have desperately asked for and was just not given time and time again. And after the course of the events of the last couple weeks, I just couldn't take it anymore. I could not take it anymore. And this particular project of filming my poetry was not something that was new to me. I have been working on this idea for a little bit now, and I actually had a filming run through with this particular poem about 3 months ago with a professional photographer, right? I was actually planning on using the footage from that day and releasing it, but because we were not able to film it the way that we wanted to, and we didn't realize it until way later, it was more of a good rough draft for me. And honestly, I'm really grateful for that day. But I had so much frustration, and what I do with my frustration and my big feelings, you know what's healthy to do with them is alchemize them, not shove them down, not be silent with them, do something with them. So I created. Because that poem was just burning in my brain. Especially because one of the things that bothered me is that I had shared my GoFundMe with my family and asked my family to share it in support for me. I never asked my parents for a penny, never asked them for help there. I asked them to help me get the GoFundMe out. Some of you watching this may be friends with my mom still. Go check her page. Look at the last time my face or my name popped up on there. If you want to know actually how my relationship was with my family and my parents, I need to stop saying my family. My siblings and I are really, really good. I know they may not agree with all of my choices, but I don't agree with all of theirs, and that's okay. We are grown adults, and we are learning to navigate that. And I'm very grateful for that. I love my siblings desperately, and I know they love me and my kids. It's not their job to financially support me, but the fact that my parents, who have very large platforms of people that could be helping me, as a single mom with 4 kids and an ex-husband who has just left the friggin' state and all child support. I'm the kind of person the church is supposed to be helping. Ask how many churches that helped raise me have helped support me right now. Ask. Not one. And there is anger behind that. There's a lot of anger behind that because I spent the first 25 years of my life after a while it was a choice and I kept doing it. But when the help was needed for me, I don't know if it's because I never publicly asked for it more or because my whole situation was just so hush-hush that it just never happened. I don't know. But here I'm sitting now all these years later, and I'm not asking for the churches for help anymore. I'm not. I go and find the support that I need as a mom because that's what we do. We pull on our big girl pants and we fucking deal with it because we have kids to take care of, and we're going to. That's how I have made it for 3 years without consistent, 5 years, 4 years. My timelines are so mixed up. But for 2 years consistently now without child support, it's not been because churches have been giving me money. It's been because I've been going to food banks. I've been doing the advocacy for myself. I've been making the phone calls and doing the legwork. Were some of those church communities and ministries? Yes. But were they the Baptist churches that helped raise me? Nope. Nope. And can I tell you that people that helped raise me are regularly within an hour radius of me? Regularly. People that I know very, very well. But do they check in with me and ask how I'm doing or want to offer support like they used to when I was up there offering service? No. And so when that pastor got on there, that preacher who's an evangelist and wants to travel the freaking country, you go spread your love of Jesus. Go do that. You go praise Trump happy birthday. Maybe one day you'll get to go play golf with him because you love golf so much. You two can be best buddies. There, but by the grace of God, you didn't have the same outcome I did. Isn't that what we preach? That our stories are supposed to be our testimonies and our ways that God got us through? But even since posting my video yesterday, the backlash that I have gotten, which was actually not very much, and from one particular person actually, was surrounding, what about the ministry? But why didn't you put a disclaimer? Why didn't you talk about how much he's changed? You just told the whole world about this whole trauma. No, I shared my experience. And I'm not hiding the truth anymore. I was raised not to lie. I am still terrified to lie. I can't even lie to my partner, okay? Seriously. I was not the rebellious preacher's kid. That was not me. I was the quiet one. I was the mousy one. I was the one that followed all of the rules and dotted all of my I's and crossed all of my T's because I was terrified of getting the shit beat out of me if I didn't. And there's no other way around saying that. That is not the same experience that all of my siblings had. And I'm not going to speak for the other members that were in that house. Because they have their own journeys and that is theirs. But I do sit here dumbfounded and very lonely sometimes that I am sitting here. And there were 6 of us in that house. And I'm sitting here very alone in my journey in this. Even in trying to talk about it with my siblings. That's hard. That is hard because they have their own healing to do. So that's not something I can just call and pick them up on the phone for. But do you think I have all of my friends from my old life calling me? No. All of the second parents, all of the adopted grandparents that were calling and supporting me? No, because I left the church and went crazy. And nobody knew why. And I was too terrified to tell why. Up until this week. Honestly. So, as for where the poem came from, that's where that particular poem came from. I did not write that with the agenda of blasting my father. Because he is almost 60 years old and that man has changed a lot. If you know my dad now, you definitely don't know this version of him. Is he still really rough around the edges in some areas? Absolutely. Is he still Eddie Hefner? Absolutely. But do I still love him because he's my father and have I forgiven him? Absolutely. Have I forgiven my mom for her point in all of this, her perspective in all of this? Absolutely. But the response I'm getting from them in this current moment in time has its own effects on me now too. I don't think as of the conversations I've had with my dad, if he does know about or has heard about that poem from yesterday, he is hiding it very, very well, and that's not normal dad behavior. He doesn't handle surprises well. So I don't think my dad knows, and I don't know that I will still have this great relationship with him tomorrow or the day after. I have no idea. And I knew that that was going to be a repercussion of letting this poem go and all of the things that I'm about to release over time. But I'm not afraid of that anymore. My dad and I have had a lot of hard conversations. Closure for me? No. Healing for me? No. Acceptance of being able to witness and see where my dad is? Yeah. My mom and I have ebbed and flowed a lot. I have gotten a lot closer with her, and she is on her own journey, and I will leave it there. And I love her very, very much. And I'm not angry. I'm not unforgiving. I guess I am somewhat angry, but it's not why I do this, right? I've learned to control my emotions, even if other people don't think I have. I have big emotions. I've been through a lot of trauma. I'm very much on, I don't know what spectrum, but it's real freaking colorful, okay? Like, yes, autism and ADHD, but even with that, with how complex my trauma is, that has so jacked my nervous system up from the beginning as well. And part of the reason my trauma is so complex is because I am autistic. That is why I was so shut down. That's why I followed all the rules. That's why I was such a quiet kid. My autism got me through my upbringing. My autism loves the church, loves the rhythm, loves the patterns, and found safety in the music. That's why I was never creative any other way. Ask the people that raised me if they ever saw me pick up a paintbrush or ever wear something crazy colorful before 2020. The answer is no. And at that point, I was 25, okay? My ADHD parts did not start coming out until I started realizing how heavily masked I was. And at that point, all 4 of my kids were going into school for the first time. And I was leaving my ex-husband. And my shit was hitting the fan. Because I've been given a hard 30 years. I'm not mad at that journey. I'm really not. I have anger. I have more anger for people like Billy than I even do my dad. And a lot of the people that run in that circle, I knew them before it was this giant big circle. And it's just become a pump money. Let's see how much we can bring in And I know the pastors that aren't like that. That's why I have respect for a handful of them. One of them married me. His name's Clement Chappelle. He's got a church up in Gary, Indiana. Also one of my dad's best friends. One of the best Christians that I have ever met in my entire life, and has heavily influenced me. He moved to Indiana from Atlanta, Georgia, the year I was born. He married me to my first husband. I have a lot of respect for him. He's someone I still keep on my Facebook feed, because whether or not he agrees with me, I know he holds a place of love for me in his heart, and we can agree to disagree on things, you know? I can't say that for people like Billy. From my perspective, he has changed. But not in the way that Jesus would have liked. He was spreading his message more, at least when I was a little kid. This is not that anymore. And if you're only on it at this point because that's the hill you've chosen to die on, like, okay. But even my dad has admitted his wrongdoing there with me. Not around the politics, and I don't talk politics with my parents. Oof. The little bit I have tried to, because I feel like we can be adult. I don't feel like I can talk about that with my dad. I do feel like I could have an objective conversation with my mother. But the handful of times I have tried to have objective conversation just about my views, not even to change anybody's mind. Crickets, and I get blown off afterwards, and that's recently happened in the last 2 weeks. So I just, that's the fire that fueled me posting this at this particular time, because I can't sit here quiet anymore while these laws are being affected, while things are changing so drastically. And these people that have voices won't use them for good. They're sitting there quiet even. The church that I spent all morning at today, I was at because they are politically involved. Jesus went and flipped tables. And now is the time to start freaking flipping tables when you know Jesus. Your neighbors need it. The homeless people need it. Your neighbors that are undocumented need it. Whether you agree with their reasoning for being here or not, I'm not talking about the people that are here hurting people, but those are the minority. If you look at all of those stats, our jails and there have been more pastors that have caused harm to young children than any immigrants that have come into the States. I can name you 10 of them right now that I personally know. But that now you guys want to be quiet? That is my problem. I don't care about the parties, because in my opinion, they're all messed up anyways, and the United States really needs a whole. And that's not done overnight. I know that. But you have a voice. You want to go scream with your megaphones to make America great again. But the second your homeless person needs help, like, they're talking about arresting homeless people where I live right now for being out on the streets. All in the name of Trump. Go read your Bibles for yourselves and stop listening to these pastors who do not know what they are saying. And honestly, Billy's story, I can't even blame him. That is a generational thing for him. His dad was in the ministry. I'm pretty sure his grandpa was in the ministry. They were all in ministry together with my grandparents. So I understand why you have gotten to where you are, but you are capable of change. And that's what Jesus says to do, is when you realize you're wrong, change your ways. But the church that raised me, and I am getting frustrated at this point, so I need to calm down. The church, thank you. There's an oil. I can smell that. It's calming my butt down. The church that raised me, thank you, is not preaching the same Jesus that I freaking learned. And I learned it with all of the context. I learned it with all of the verses. I learned it drilled into my head. I didn't learn it a little bit. And so that's why I'm getting more vocal. If you want to know why, that's why. This whole last month has really inspired me for what I want to do creatively with my business. And even with my business going the direction it did, I am in a lot of shock still. I have had so much transition over the last 2 months of my life that was so unplanned for and unexpected. And while yes, this is a repeating pattern in my life, that is not one that I have asked for, right? And I am being given time and time again by God, the universe, and I use them both so that whoever, I don't know who's watching this right now, but I need you to understand that we just say the same things, maybe a little differently, but that doesn't mean I'm off in sin. If that's what you believe, you just learn the Bible in a box, and I really encourage you to learn it outside of the box, because it is a very beautiful book outside of that box. There is not condemnation like we have been taught outside of that box. Jesus is not condemnation outside of that box. Jesus is that revolution of love. Jesus is why I share my story. Because when I sit here and ask myself when I wake up in the morning, what would Jesus do? I don't think Jesus would be quiet. He definitely wouldn't be voting for him. That's just the obvious. So I'm going to leave that there. But Jesus wouldn't be sitting here quiet either. And I was not given my story for no reason. I was not given a lifetime of ministry for that to be ripped away from me and then just never have it again. Like, I didn't sit in children's church. I helped oversee children's church. Okay? That is how that went for me. And while technically, no, I didn't oversee it, I did. I was always the example. I was the role model. I was the pastor's oldest daughter. So not only was I an example to my siblings, I was an example to all the other kids that were in the church. And my dad's first church was a lot of young families and a lot of kids looking up to me. And if I stepped out of line, it got publicized. We were used as examples all the time. Even his grandkids, my kids. Tucker's last experience with my dad in church was being pulled up on the stage, my dad yelling over him because he was passionately preaching. But my kids don't know that. My kids don't experience church like that. And he started telling the congregation about what Tucker had just told him right before the church service. That was over a year ago, and Tucker still jokes about how he can't tell Papa things or Grandpa things on Sunday morning because he's gonna talk about it in the sermon. I have known that since I was younger than my kid. Okay, since I was like 5 or 4. If you don't want it coming out in the spotlight, don't talk to him about it. People that know my dad personally, his church members, have gotten to know this about him. And he's worked on this. He's done a lot of work. But he is still the same human being with his own traumas and his own journeys. And honestly, not a lot of mental health help through it, because Jesus is supposed to be a savior that helps all of the things, and Jesus takes away the pain. That is not how forgiveness works. Forgiveness is in the spirit, and we are not just spirit. We are body, mind, and spirit. You forgive in the spirit, right? That's where forgiveness lives. But in your body and mind, that's not how forgiveness works. Forgive and forget is literally not how we are wired. Our nervous systems can't just forget. Forgiveness doesn't make it go away. Forgiveness doesn't take the pain away. Forgiveness might take away some of the guilt, and you might find other ways to cope. But that doesn't mean your body is healed. And that's where I am sitting. I have given a lot of forgiveness for a lot of people. And at this point, I've given forgiveness to a lot of people that are currently still reopening a lot of wounds for me. And I don't have forgiveness for that anymore. You're not going to keep running me over. But that's not everybody. That's actually not even the majority anymore, because I have been so authentic these last 5 years that I have people saying they believe me. When I was 16, CPS did get involved. Nobody believed me. The pastors and the principals at my schools that could see the bruises, the teachers that I was showing the bruises to, didn't believe me. And those were teachers over at that cult school. My high school years at that point. That wasn't even when I was little. That was high school at that point. The world needs those same people that raised me to use that same power to change something. But at this point, I've realized Book of Revelation's making a lot of sense. And I really am pretty sure that Antichrist actually probably wears the title Christian and comes from a Baptist church more than likely, or a Southern Baptist, or some crazy, insane fundamentalism of that sort. Because all of these people are following this president in the name of the Bible. And I don't even know how he swooped in and convinced all of these Christians that he was who was he before he nobody supported him in the churches before he was running for president. Like, what the hell? Nobody liked that name. He wasn't someone we looked up to. And now you guys are posting about him with Bible verses in support and praising God that he is in office? Make that math make sense. And at this point, I can't handle sitting here and watching this stupidity anymore. I'm done I'm going to call it like I fucking see it. And if you're still on my page and you believe that way, you're still on my page because you don't post politics. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that I don't know your views. Because it hurts me more and more to find Bible verses attached to that man. Post about him individually, okay, I can at least dismiss that. But post about him and share about your Sunday service, you've lost me altogether. You've lost me. That is how hell is spread. How many people's lives are you ruining right now? Or are you helping ruin just by sitting there in silence? Forget voting, just by sitting there in silence. And like this, people hear me talk like this and they think I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm passionate about what I'm speaking about. If I were in a pulpit, they'd call it preaching. But the church that raised me won't give me a pulpit. And I'm not looking for one. I don't want to go pastor a church or be a preacher. I want to go minister to people and meet them where they are, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus didn't preach. He didn't have a Bible. He didn't have a congregation. He went out in the streets and met people where they were. They didn't have cars. They didn't have easy ways to communicate. They didn't have cell phones. And all the sermons I hear talk about Jesus as this glorified, amazing person, because he is. But it is so unattainable, and they're over there trying to attain it and staying away from touching the dirty and admitting the dirty. Do you really think Jesus lived an easy life from the second he entered this world? Do you really think Jesus was a peaceful person? Honestly, they were trying to kill him from the time he came out of the womb. Half of the world hated him because he didn't apparently have an earthly father. There was so much conflict around Jesus that it's a wonder he even made it to 33 years. Has anyone even preached a sermon about that? The humanity of Jesus. The humanity of the journey that he had to walk to get to where he was, to be able to say what he said in the last 3 years that we got to witness. But none of those pastors, even my dad included, talk about the humanity of Jesus. Hi, Tyler. I'm glad you're listening. Thank you, buddy. And this is why, Tyler, but people like you are why I share this. Because we don't need more people preaching that Jesus was this holier than thou person. He wasn't. He sat in the dirt with the people down in the dirt. He didn't side with the men, with the adulterer, the adulterous woman, and that whole story around he who was without sin cast the first stone. Jesus didn't come preach a sermon to that woman. He turned around and told everybody basically to fuck off. Pardon my language. I'm pairing it with the Bible. But like present day and age, that's what Jesus did. He said, he who is without sin cast the first stone. He didn't start preaching to that woman. And it's so funny because that's what the sermons say. That's what they preach in the sermons is, he who is without sin cast the first stone. They quote that and preach context. But when they go out in the streets, they don't want to perform that. They want to make sure there's a camera there. They want to make sure that their bills are paid first because they aren't actually trusting the Spirit. So they're going to charge an outrageous amount of money. Thank you, Tyler. Yes, Jesus died for our sins. And even with that, my theology around that has changed. But the message of Jesus is still what it is. It is love. It is acceptance. Because Jesus saw the power in us as just human beings. The power in our humanity. The power in our ick. I probably will be publicly speaking one day, let's be real. And I'm not afraid of it, obviously. I've been public speaking all of my life. because that was forced for me. Like one of my siblings in particular, and I'm not going to share their story, but one of my siblings in particular had a lot of stage fright, and she's done a lot of work to overcome that. I didn't have that problem. I have no problem with public speaking. It doesn't come always out very eloquently. It comes out a little crazy sometimes, but it doesn't scare me. I'm going to keep sharing my poetry. Some of it's going to be darker. Some of it's going to be lighter, because it's not all dark anymore. But I knew what I was doing when I decided to release that poem yesterday. I mean, I didn't know deeply how deep it was, and it's still rippling. I know that. My plan is to do a bit of revamping on my YouTube page and YouTube channel specifically. I'm going to have some, I'm going to kind of clean it up and have playlists. That's what I'm looking for, the word I'm looking for. And I'm hoping to get to do this either tonight or tomorrow. I've been trying to get to it all week, but mom life has gotten in the way. I'm going to start organizing my YouTube channel so that if people want to come on there for the soul sessions, you can go right to that playlist. My music, my piano stuff, I'm going to be sharing lots more of that. We'll have its own playlist. Oh, that's my marker. I'm at 20% battery life, so I'm not going to be on live much longer. If you've popped on and you've watched any of this, thank you for watching very, very much, for listening, for just witnessing me and my journey, because that's really all I'm here sharing for. But yeah, I'm going to have a playlist specifically for my soul sessions with the Bible, and I'm not done doing that. I'm just riding the waves right now and learning how to integrate and braid it all together. I will have a playlist for my music, my piano music. Maybe eventually down the road there will be a branch over between my music and my poetry. I don't know. But I'll have another playlist specifically for my poetry. I haven't decided how I'm going to separate that all out yet, because I have poetry going from church-related stuff to just processing trauma, to mom life, to healing post-recovery, you know, from people-pleasing. So I have a lot of ideas there, and because of the creative flow that I've been pushed into this week, because I have been... Thank you very much, Tyler. I love you so much. Thank you so much for commenting, bud. I appreciate your support more than you know. Every time I see your name pop up, I think of Papa, and it's going to make me cry. But he was as much of a grandpa to me as he was to you. And I am so grateful when I see your name, bud. So grateful, because I miss him a lot. Thank you for commenting on my stuff, Tyler, and being around and being the beautiful human that you are. And also, happy birthday. But yeah, I have a lot of plans for what I want to do on YouTube to help share this more. I don't know what my ministry work is going to look like footwork wise. I am definitely excited for partnering more with Trying Mercy Center, however that looks. And right now it's just giving back time and getting to know the people more. But yeah, I am so excited for the journey that I have been put on. I am excited for the excitement that I have now. I have not had this kind of a fire lit under me around a community space to give back in, I don't think, ever in my life. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but for those watching now, I'm going to say it again. I think this morning and the hours I spent at that church this morning was the first time in over 5 years that I have worked, and today was volunteer. I mean, all of it's been, who am I kidding? I have never been paid a penny for any of my work stuff, my church stuff, right? All of the musician seats that I sat in as the church pianist, I have not been paid for any of that. When I was in high school, as an adult, all of that has been volunteered. And I need to just say that. So I would really love, Jerry, Universe, whoever, God, if you're listening, I know you're listening. If you could align me with a job that would align ministry with my creativity so I'm getting paid to do this, that would be wonderful. That's me putting this out there. This is how manifestation works. This is prayer with your eyes open, okay? This is how it works. This is what Jesus talks about when he says there is more power in us than there is even in him. Because he was saying you just got to channel it. You got to do what he's doing and keep doing it. He knew what the world was going to evolve into. Jesus knew all of the things that was coming. And even if he didn't understand it, he trusted the message that he was here to give. So I stand in this strength when I say I'm manifesting in Jesus' name, okay? I really am. Manifesting is prayer. It is powerful. And praying with intention. I need a job that is both ministry and my creation and is not the grocery store or food service. Please and thank you. Amen. Okay. You all got to witness me in that. But I'm really hoping that Triune aligns those and keeps opening doors. And I don't know if it will be through Triune. I don't know if it will be a person I meet through that space. I've met quite a few different people that are just members there, that or serve there, that are different phone calls I have to make now that are very good leads for me. But I'm really just trying to trust that it is going to come back the way that it is going to, because even on that GoFundMe, I'm grateful for the support that has come in from it. I have not gotten a lot of support. And so I am going to reshare that in the comments here. I'll probably make another post about it tomorrow, because I do have bills that have to get paid in the meantime of this transition. And I am a bit panicked at this current moment in time. So if you are seeing this and you feel led to share that GoFundMe or post it on my behalf or something, I will be posting that link directly in his comments as soon as I'm done with this live. And I am now currently asking for help with that, even if it's just enough to get me and my kids through until I do have steady income. I'm in a bind and I don't know what to do, and I can't do anything at this point but trust. Everybody is hurting right now financially. Everything is going on, and I know that. It's why I can't go ask non-for-profits for help right now, because I'm not in an emergency enough of state. But as a mother with 4 kids and a lot of shifting things, I personally am panicking at this point. Not panicking. I'm nearing a lot of dysregulation around my finances. And I am asking for help. And if you can't support financially, I'm asking, and I don't like asking my friends for money. I really, really, really don't. Because I know none of us have it. So this is my current plea of, if you see that post for GoFundMe, or you feel comfortable just sharing the link, more of my story, I'm going to be trying to update things more. And I'm hoping that as I get more traction on my YouTube page, that will help things there as well. I am now actively asking, hi Sherry. Substitute teaching. I've been looking at after school programs, actually. If there's one program in particular that I'm looking at that is very musical, I'm glad you're looking at substitute teaching, because I'm looking at, I don't want to go into that specifically because I can't do all day, but I'm trying to go into that mindset. If I can't find something creative or ministry, my backfall is probably going to be after school programs and things that are more just teaching minded and not food service. But thank you. I'm glad that you mentioned substitute teaching, because honestly, I wouldn't mind doing that, I don't think. And that's a really good idea. Thank you for that. I hadn't gone down that rabbit trail, because I could do that once in a while. Back brain's running now. Thanks, Sherry. Appreciate that comment for sure. But like, I don't like asking my friends for help financially. We are all, and I know that. I am friends with people that are struggling too. But I also know that there's a world out there, and I'm not asking for the support for myself at this moment. I just need to make sure my kids and I are taken care of. And especially with Riley and her leukemia, like, we're literally going to North Carolina on Saturday for a quarter auction for Justin's daughter, Riley. She is still actively going through treatment. She has a lot of medical expenses. And so, and I mentioned this on my last live, Justin is a huge support, but his finances, he is helping me right now, but he has a lot of his own things going on. Are you serious? Wow. Okay. I'm going to remember that. Thanks, Sherry. So yeah, I am trying to supplement on my own as I can, but also, as just knowing me as a person, if I knee jerk and jump very fast into a fast job, which would be like going to the gas station or going to the grocery store, that will collapse me mentally, and I will not be able to stay regulated, especially because that job is not sustainable for me. So I would rather wait for a space to get into something that is more sustainable, even if it is something like substitute teaching or an after-school program, because I know I mentally can maintain that. I cannot maintain long-term a gas station job. I cannot maintain long-term a grocery store job unless I meet the right people and that is perfectly aligned. But that is too corporate for me, and I know that. Even the schools, I am hesitant to go into that because they have a lot of rules and things that you have to be able to follow. And being around the kids all day is very, very hard. And I did that as a lunch lady for a few hours a day. But on my nervous system, it's really, really dysregulating some days, especially if the kids are unruly or yelling. And that's not anything I have a problem with. That's part of being a teacher. That is why I never went into teaching, because I knew that I could not handle that all day. So, but that's definitely something I'm going to think about. Absolutely. Because if it's once in a while, like, I love being around kids, and I've done a lot of work around my nervous system and regulating myself. That's why I'm branching into things that used to make me uncomfortable, because I'm not afraid anymore. Right. So, yeah, I guess this is kind of just where I'm at, and my phone is currently dying more and more, and it's the universe saying, hey, don't be much longer. So keep an eye out. If you feel, that's good to know, Sherry. Thank you very, very much for telling me that. I'm definitely going to look into that. If I can pick schools and times, and I can be specific about that, that's what I'm trying to look for, is jobs that I can be particular about, so that I can know my limitations and not get in over my head. And that's not going to happen if I go into food service, but that's what my job history's in. So, yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, if you've seen this live and you want to go back and watch it from the beginning, feel free. If not, this is kind of just where I'm at. I wanted to share some about my poetry, and you're going to be seeing lots more of that. I'm hoping to post something at least once a week. Honestly, knowing me, you may get more than once a week, especially as I zone in. The last week, for me, I have a hard time as an ADHD person and autistic person just setting a plan and sticking with it. That's very harsh in my brain. And then if I don't follow it, I carry a lot of guilt and shame and stuff that just comes with my trauma that I'm working through. So I'm a very go with the flow person, and I have to really, right now in the season of life that I am in, I have to be present with my body and check in with my body regularly. That's part of the reason I'm not running to go get a job until the right one lands in my lap or crosses my path, right? But with that being said, I have to take things day by day. So I go through seasons of like my channeling with the Bible read, the intuitive Bible reading and oracle card pulls. That takes a lot of energy from me. And because there was so much excitement around that for a moment, that's why I kicked out so much, because my ADHD was like, whoa, a new project, let's go. And that's not off my radar. That's not. But I am navigating so many different things right now that I am braiding them all together, if that makes sense. And because they all kind of like one thing happened and the next thing happened, all within like weeks, like some of them days of just domino effect for me. And that's fine. That's how my life works. But that's why you guys are seeing it in spurts. So there's definitely a chance that you will see me kick out a lot of poetry all of a sudden, or I will film a lot and I will just give you guys snippets and then it'll come out in season. I don't know. I know that for the sake of consistency on social media, regularness here would be better, and I'm trying to work towards that. I used to be a very black and white person. I used to be very, very organized. And then my ADHD came out and took over. Now I'm just trying to find a balance between the two, and it is complete chaos all the time, okay? So until I find a better balance there, the routine and organization is coming back to me. Every week that my kids are in school is another week that I get to regulate myself a little bit more and find more steps of concrete and for like surety for myself, you know? So yeah, with that, I think that's where I'm going to end. I feel really led to pull a card really fast before I go, because my decks are sitting here yelling at me. So I'm going to pull a card from this deck that I love so much, this Love Who You Are, my authenticity deck. I wasn't planning on pulling a card, but it's just that fly, actually that fly that was flying around that was distracting me earlier, that's what called me to it. He finally stopped moving and he was sitting over there on the deck. So that's what caught my eye. That's what I take as a sign from spirit sometimes. That's the small, still voice, or the still small voice. The synchronicities. See, he's flying around. Hello, Mr. Fly. All right, Jerry, what do you have for us before we close? Jesus, Jerry, God, universe, whoever's listening, what do they need to hear? Or whoever's not listening, who watches this later. Oof, this is a little all over. Ooh. There you are. The number is 11. New beginnings. 11s. I've been seeing 11s a lot today. Actually, I was sitting at the church this morning talking with the volunteer director. And I could see the phone behind him and the I'm going to read this in a second, but I got to mention this because this is when I saw 1111 earlier. I was talking with him about the ministry aspect, and all of a sudden he turned around to go to his computer, and I looked at the phone and 1111 was there, and I was just like, ooh, 1111, and I called it out. It was really, really funny. Anyways, 11 is back again. The card is a bear, and he's got a honey beehive up there. And the card says, follow your bliss. I'm going to read that for us really fast, and then I'm going to jump off here. Dropped my book. All right. Card number 11, follow your bliss. Just as a bear can follow the trail of honey, so can you follow the trail of your bliss, following your happiness. It has a particular scent, specifically made to lure your soul onward. It's not a time to consider the practical reasons and logical explanations. Thank you, because everything I'm doing right now is absolutely nuts. My logical brain's freaking out. Thank you for that. This is a time to hone in on what fills your heart with glee and to move in that direction. Lost my place. There it is. Your joy isn't selfish. Your joy isn't selfish. Happiness is contagious, so when you follow the bliss of places, people, and events that inspire you, you're actually creating more space and permission for others to follow their own bliss too. That was beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to give you guys my poem, and we're going to be done. I am safe in my body. I am safe in my brain. I move with intention, with love and with aim. I take what is mine, and I leave what is theirs. I know I'm protected, and I come prepared. Oh, that just reminded me while I'm saying this in regards to the YouTube. I will probably be saving these lives and giving you guys another podcast or another playlist on there of just the lives that I do. So keep an eye out. I'll update you guys, I'm sure, as I have things to share. You'll see me share them. Please, if you feel and it resonates for you to share the GoFundMe that I post in the comments below, or if you see my post tomorrow, do whatever you feel led there. And I'm going to trust that the Spirit will carry that message to whoever it needs to carry to. Have a lovely evening, dear friends. We're going into the weekend. Rest yourselves. Drink lots of water. Hug a tree. Hug a person. Love somebody you wouldn't usually show some love to. Maybe that's yourself. All right, guys. Good night. Bye.